Good morning, dear students. Today's topic is arch of aorta. So arch of aorta, it is a part of aorta. It is continued from ascending aorta. So ascending aorta continues as arch of aorta, and arch of aorta distally it continues as descending aorta, or more specifically descending thoracic aorta. So this descending thoracic aorta continues down into the abdomen after piercing the diaphragm as abdominal aorta, which is very small part. So today's topic is arch of aorta. So arch of aorta, it forms an arch over the root of left lung. So we have right lung, left lung. So left lung root, that means whatever structures which are entering into the left lung is called root of left lung. So this arch of aorta, it forms an arch over the root of the left lung. So here we can see, so this is the trachea, bifurcation of trachea, and you can see arch of aorta which is running over the left principal bronchus. So that's why it is called arch of aorta. Where is it located? So it is situated behind the sternum, that is behind the manubrium of the sternum, in the superior mediastinum. We have superior and inferior mediastinum. So in the superior mediastinum, that is above the sternal angle, behind the manubrium of the sternum, this is situated. Then it extends from where to where? So here you can see, this is the manubrium of the sternum, and this one is second costal cartilage. So this junction is called chondrosternal joint. This is body of sternum. So this junction is chondrosternal joint. So it extends from right chondrosternal joint to left chondrosternal joint. Right chondrosternal joint to left chondrosternal joint. That is only level. Though it begins just behind the right chondrosternal joint, it ends backwards at the level of left chondrosternal joint, because the course of arch of aorta is, so we can take one example like this. So suppose you think this is the arch of aorta. So here, this is the beginning, ascending aorta. Ascending aorta continues as arch of aorta. Arch of aorta continues as descending thoracic aorta. So this arch of aorta, what is its course? It is running first backwards, upwards and to the left. Backwards, upwards and to the left side, in front of trachea. Suppose this is trachea here in front. So it is running backwards, upwards and towards the left in front of the trachea. Then it descends on the left side of trachea. Suppose this is trachea. On the left side of trachea it descends. Then it runs downwards and continues down as descending thoracic aorta. So though it begins just behind the right chondrosternal joint here, it ends backwards somewhere behind the left chondrosternal joint, since its course is running backwards and towards the left side. So this is the extent of arch of aorta. So extent course is finished. Next we will have the branches. So you can see here branches of arch of aorta. So main branch, first branch is, which we see on the right side, that is brachiocephalic trunk. Brachiocephalic trunk. Brachio means arm, cephalic means head. So this blood vessel, it supplies right arm as well as head and neck region. So branches of brachiocephalic trunk includes right subclavian artery and right common carotid artery. This is first branch, brachiocephalic trunk. Then second branch is left common carotid artery. Left common carotid artery. Third branch is left subclavian artery. Left subclavian artery. These are the main and principal branches of arch of aorta. Sometimes we can see other branches, like branches of first part of subclavian artery, we know, that is left vertebral artery, then inferior thyroid artery, and internal thoracic artery. So inferior thyroid artery is a branch of thyrocervical trunk of first part of subclavian artery, and internal thoracic artery is and vertebral artery, these are also branches of subclavian artery. These branches, sometimes they may be seen taking origin directly from arch of aorta in spite of subclavian artery. And other branches like thyroidea ima artery, thyroidea ima artery. So we know thyroidea ima artery is a branch which supplies the thyroid gland in the middle. So this also takes origin, if it is present, from the arch of aorta. Then next, sometimes very rarely, left bronchial artery and directly the right subclavian artery. The right subclavian artery, though it is an anomaly. So normally right subclavian artery is a branch of brachiocephalic trunk. But sometimes this right subclavian artery, it also takes directly origin from arch of aorta. And last one is left bronchial, very rarely left bronchial artery. So we have right and left bronchial arteries. So left bronchial artery also takes origin directly from the aorta. So these are occasional arteries, and main arteries are brachiocephalic trunk, left common carotid artery, and left subclavian artery. And here you can see a little bit of location, and here this is manubrium of the sternum. This is the sternum, sternae, parts of sternum, and here posteriorly you can see the thoracic vertebra, thoracic vertebra. So this is the sternal angle, an imaginary line which is extending from the manubriosternal joint to the fourth thoracic vertebra is seen here. So above that we will see the superior mediastinum, below that inferior mediastinum. So this arch of aorta, it is located in the superior mediastinum behind the manubrium of sternum. So the summit of arch of aorta, it is seen just behind the middle of the manubrium of sternum. Summit means highest point. This is the highest point. So it is seen behind the middle of manubrium of sternum. So you can see this is running upwards and backwards. So first it is present in front of trachea, then it is seen on the left side of trachea. So here you can also see on the posterior aspect the esophagus. So up to which level it extends? Posteriorly up to lower border of fourth thoracic vertebra. Lower border of fourth thoracic vertebra. So sternal angle anteriorly it starts and it ends at the level of fourth thoracic vertebra behind. And you can see the heart here, and this is the diaphragm. So curvatures of arch of aorta. We have two curvatures. So one is the curvature which is upwards. So like this, it is upwards. Then another curvature is forwards. So forwards. So for one curvature, the convexity will be upwards. For another curvature, the convexity will be towards the front and left side. So this is second convexity, front and left side. Since it is like this, since arch of aorta is like this, so this is the second convexity or curvature. The next, relations. So here we have to learn, relations are very important for arch of aorta. So anterior relations, posterior relations, superior and inferior relations. What are the structures? Very minute structures will be there. So we have to learn them. So this is a cross section of a diagram which we see of thorax, which we see from below, So this is the left side and this is the right side. This is the left side and this is the right side. So here you can see anteriorly the sternum, manubrium of the sternum. These are the ribs, costal cartilage and ribs, and posteriorly you can see the thoracic vertebra, fourth thoracic vertebra. So here the structures will be there. So in the thorax, what are the structures we see? So on either side we will see the pleura with lungs. This is right pleura and right lung. This is left pleura and left lung. So in front of vertebra we have the trachea, esophagus, and towards the left side we have the arch of aorta. So there are some structures in front and to the left of arch of aorta, and there are some structures behind and to the right of arch of aorta. So anteriorly towards the left, what are the structures which we see? So first thing we see is sternum, then behind the sternum pleura, left pleura with left lung. Then between arch of aorta and the left pleura and the lung we have some small structures. These are the 4 nerves and 1 important vein. 4 nerves and 1 vein. So what are the 4 nerves? Left phrenic nerve, left vagus nerve, left phrenic and left vagus nerve, and third one is one branch from the left vagus, that is inferior cervical cardiac branch. So this cardiac branch of the vagus, it forms the cardiac plexus. So this is the third nerve, and fourth one is superior cervical cardiac branch of sympathetic trunk. So we also see sympathetic trunk here on either side of the vertebra. From that there will be one branch which is involved in the formation of cardiac plexus. So this 4 nerves are anteriorly present between the left lung and pleura and the arch of aorta. Left phrenic nerve, left vagus nerve, inferior cervical cardiac branch of left vagus, and superior cervical cardiac branch of left sympathetic trunk. So you can see here, this is the left phrenic, very small and minute structure, and this is the left vagus. So between the left phrenic and left vagus nerves you can see one vein. This is the left superior intercostal vein. So we have intercostal veins. In that the first one is called superior intercostal vein. So this first superior intercostal vein on the left side, so it has a course from back side to front. So it runs from the back side, from near the ribs to forwards, and it crosses the arch of aorta between the phrenic and vagus nerves. So it crosses, it runs upwards and forwards between the phrenic and vagus nerves. Then finally it drains into the left brachiocephalic vein. Sorry, right brachiocephalic vein. So these are the structures which are present anteriorly and towards the left. Left lung, left pleura, in front of that sternum, and between arch of aorta and left lung and left pleura, 4 nerves and 1 important vein, left superior intercostal vein. So next, posteriorly and towards the right, posteriorly and towards the right. So posteriorly and towards the right. So first you can see here the cardiac plexus. So here we saw superficial cardiac plexus nerves. Here deep cardiac plexus nerves. So this is the deep cardiac plexus, and then we have the trachea, and then esophagus. Between trachea and esophagus we have the recurrent laryngeal nerves. Recurrent laryngeal nerves. So most closely related is, though it is on the right side, left recurrent laryngeal nerve is very close to the arch of aorta here, and then finally on the back side we have the 4th thoracic vertebra. In front of thoracic vertebra we have the thoracic duct. So these are the structures which we see posteriorly and to the right. So first one is deep cardiac plexus of nerves, then trachea, second one, third one left recurrent laryngeal nerve, fourth one is esophagus, fifth one is thoracic duct, and the last 6th one is the 4th thoracic vertebra. So these are the structures posteriorly and towards the right. So 7 structures we have seen here anteriorly and towards the left, and 5 structures here, 6 structures posteriorly and to the right. Then next, what are the structures we see superiorly? So superiorly means we know the branches. Brachiocephalic trunk is one branch, left common carotid and left subclavian artery. These 3 Along with these three, two more structures. That is, one is the left brachiocephalic vein. So this is the left brachiocephalic vein which joins with right brachiocephalic vein to form the superior vena cava. So this left brachiocephalic vein, it has a long course from left side, and this left brachiocephalic vein, it crosses all the three main vessels anteriorly. It is crossing the left subclavian vein, subclavian artery, left common carotid artery, and brachiocephalic trunk. So all the three important branches it is crossing, and then it is joining with the right brachiocephalic vein to form the superior vena cava. So this is the fourth structure. Then fifth one is crossing of phrenic and vagus nerves. So this is the vagus nerve which is passing anteriorly to all these structures, including the arch of aorta, and this is the phrenic nerve. So there is crossing of phrenic nerve and vagus nerves here above the arch of aorta. So five structures: subclavian, right brachiocephalic trunk, left common carotid, left subclavian artery, left brachiocephalic vein which is crossing all these structures, and crossing of left phrenic and left vagus. These five structures are situated superior to the arch of aorta. Then what are the structures we see inferiorly? So as we said, inferiorly, arch of aorta means it is crossing the left principal bronchus. So that is the first primary structure, left principal bronchus. And here we can also see, and this left principal bronchus also just near the bifurcation of trachea it is seen. And then second one is pulmonary trunk, that is left pulmonary artery. So this is the pulmonary trunk which gives right and left pulmonary arteries. So left pulmonary artery is the second structure. So just between the arch of aorta and left pulmonary artery, we are seeing some blue color structure. This is nothing but actually the ligamentum arteriosum. Ligamentum arteriosum is a remnant of ductus arteriosus. So what is ductus arteriosus? Ductus arteriosus is the connection or communication between left pulmonary artery and the arch of aorta. So this is present before birth. So after birth, due to some chemical and anatomical changes, this gets obliterated and it is remnant as ligamentum arteriosum. So this is the third structure. So on the surface of ligamentum arteriosus towards the left side, we also see the fourth structure, that is the superficial cardiac plexus of nerves. Superficial cardiac plexus of nerves, it is present inferiorly. So this is a plexus of nerves which are formed from branches. We already saw branches from the left vagus and the sympathetic trunk. So this plexus is present inferiorly. Then last fifth structure is recurrent laryngeal nerve, left recurrent laryngeal nerve. So left recurrent laryngeal nerve is a branch of left vagus nerve. So after taking origin from the vagus, it winds round the inferior aspect or inferior surface of arch of aorta and then runs upwards between the esophagus and the trachea in the tracheoesophageal group. So left recurrent laryngeal, which is a branch of left vagus, is the fifth structure. So while it is running upwards into the tracheoesophageal groove, it winds round the arch of aorta inferiorly. So these are the five structures which are development of arch of aorta is the last thing. So here, for development of arch of aorta, first we have to know few things about the development. That is, here you can see two tubes. These are ventral aortas. So right and left ventral aorta. So during development, two ventral aortas will be there. These two ventral aortas in the lower aspect or distal aspect, they fuse here and they form the aortic sac. Aortic sac. And here on either side you can see the dorsal aorta. So ventral aortas are present on the ventral side. Dorsal aortas are seen on the dorsal side. So these two dorsal aortas which are seen on either side, they also fuse in the midline distally. And communication between ventral and dorsal aortas, we can see some arches. These are called aortic. These are called so here we have 6 arches connecting the ventral aorta and the dorsal aorta. First one, second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one, sixth one. So from this 6 arches and ventral aortas and dorsal aortas, we see the development of blood vessels of head and neck region and including the arch of aorta. Head and neck and thorax region and arch of aorta. So what are the blood vessels we have to know? First one is arch of aorta, then brachiocephalic trunk, which divides into right subclavian artery and right common carotid artery, then left common carotid artery and left subclavian artery. So here we have to see very clearly. So first thing is, out of the 6 aortic arches, the first one which I am marking in black, this first one and second one gets obliterated. On both sides, first and second gets obliterated. And fifth one also, on either side, it gets obliterated. So this black one is obliterated first, second and fifth aortic arches. Then next, so this is the aortic sac. For this aortic sac, this is left horn, this is right horn. Left horn and right horn. So this left horn of the aortic sac is the first part which is giving rise to the arch of aorta. Arch of aorta, left horn of aortic sac. Then second part, it develops from fourth aortic arch. Fourth aortic arch. Then remaining, it develops from the dorsal aorta. It develops from the dorsal aorta, left dorsal aorta. Left dorsal aorta. So aorta develops from 3 structures. First part, that is from the brachiocephalic trunk to the origin of left common carotid artery. This develops from the left horn of aortic sac. And then second part, it develops from the fourth aortic arch. And third part, it develops from descending, that is it develops from the dorsal aorta. So these 3 structures give rise to the arch of aorta. Then next, actually here
third.
Then right horn of the aortic sac, this gives rise to the brachiocephalic trunk. Brachiocephalic trunk. Right horn gives origin to the, or right horn forms the brachiocephalic trunk. And then next, right fourth aortic arch. Right fourth aortic arch along with 7th intersegmental artery, which is an extra part. This together forms the right subclavian artery. So right subclavian artery. Right subclavian artery is formed from the 4th right aortic arch as well as the 7th intersegmental artery. And here on the left side, left subclavian artery, it forms only from the 7th intersegmental artery. 7th intersegmental artery. So remaining structures, this third aortic arch as well as an extra budding from the third aortic arch. So this is extra budding from the third aortic arch which gives rise to the external carotid artery. External carotid artery. And the remaining part of the ventral aorta along with the little bit beginning of third arch, this gives origin, or this gives rise to common carotid artery. And the remaining thing of the third segmental artery, it continues as internal carotid artery. Internal carotid artery. So the same occurs this side also. So here what is important is aortic arch of aorta is formed from left horn of aortic sac, fourth aortic arch, and the remaining part of dorsal aorta. And brachiocephalic trunk, it is formed from the right horn of aortic sac. Right subclavian artery is formed from the fourth aortic arch as well as seventh intersegmental artery. But the left subclavian artery, it is formed from the only seventh intersegmental artery. And this sixth arch, apart it gives rise to left pulmonary artery on the left side, and a part gives rise to right pulmonary artery on the right side. And the remaining part on the left side, it forms the ductus arteriosus. This is the ductus arteriosus, so which is patent in the early life, and now after birth it has been remaining as a communication between left pulmonary artery and the arch of aorta. This is ductus arteriosus, which forms the ligamentum arteriosum. So this is the development of arch of aorta and subclavian artery and the brachiocephalic trunks, right pulmonary and left pulmonary artery. So what are the important applied aspects here? So here you can see 5 important aspects I have written here. That is double aortic arch. Double aortic arch. So suppose, so here the remaining part of the dorsal aorta, this completely gets obliterated again. Normally it gets obliterated. Suppose if this does not get obliterated, we will see arch of aorta on the left side as well as arch of aorta on the right side. So this is called double aortic arch. So when double aortic arch is present, these two arches, they surround the trachea and esophagus, and there will be some difficulties in breathing as well as taking food. So that is double aortic arch. This is due to non-obliteration of the dorsal aorta, right dorsal aorta. So 2 arches are seen. Then right dorsal aorta. Second thing is right dorsal aorta. So in spite of obliteration of the dorsal aorta on the right side, the left dorsal aorta is obliterated and right dorsal aorta is remaining. So this is functioning and this is obliterated. Then it is called right dorsal aorta. Then third one is abnormal origin of right subclavian artery. So normally right subclavian artery, it is arising from the fourth aortic arch as well as the seventh intersegmental artery. But sometimes what happens is this fourth arch gets obliterated and this, when dorsal aorta, it is patent. So that time you will see the formation of origin of right subclavian artery directly from the arch of aorta. That is, mostly it is seen at the junction of arch of aorta with that of the descending aorta. So this is descending aorta. In the midline, after fusion, both the dorsal aortas fusion, it forms the descending aorta. So at the junction of arch of aorta and the descending aorta, you will see the origin of right subclavian artery. So this is abnormal origin of right subclavian artery. Then fourth one is coarctation of aorta. Coarctation means constriction or presence of a stricture in the aorta. So in this coarctation of aorta means, so stricture may be anywhere. It may be present before the ductus arteriosus or it may be present after the ductus arteriosus. So if it is present before the ductus arteriosus, it is called preductal coarctation of aorta. If it is present after the ductus arteriosus, it is called postductal coarctation of aorta. Suppose if it is preductal coarctation of aorta, what happens? Blood from the aorta, which ascending aorta enters into the arch of the aorta, and there will be backflow of the blood from arch of aorta to the pulmonary trunk, that is from left side to the right side. So pure blood which is pumped from the aorta, so it reaches again back to the left pulmonary artery through the ductus arteriosus. So this occurs usually in the postductal coarctation of aorta. Suppose if the constriction is present here, so what happens? Blood can't flow through the distal part of the arch of aorta as well as into the descending aorta. So it also can't enter the ductus arteriosus. So there will be pressure on the other structures, that is common carotid artery and right subclavian artery. So at this time, when this preductal coarctation of aorta is present, the blood chooses an alternate pathway, that is it enters the subclavian artery, and through the subclavian artery branches, that is internal thoracic artery and intercostal arteries, it reaches the descending aorta. So anyway it has to reach the descending aorta. For that, since it can't pass through the arch of aorta completely and then enter the descending aorta, so blood flows through the subclavian artery. So from the subclavian artery to the branches of subclavian artery, that is internal thoracic, intercostal arteries. Intercostal arteries, there are branches here of the descending aorta. So from the internal thoracic, they enter into the descending aorta through the intercostal arteries. So this is the coarctation of aorta, preductal and postductal. Then next, patent ductus arteriosus. Patent means, normally we told ductus arteriosus should be obliterated after birth. So in the first 3 months, due to some chemical changes, this gets obliterated and there is no flow of blood from arch of aorta to the left pulmonary artery, or either way, from left pulmonary artery to the arch of aorta. Due to some chemical changes, this gets closed. Later, after 3 months, anatomical changes occurs. There will be growth of tunica intima, tunica media, and this gets completely obliterated and it forms the ligamentum arteriosus. But sometimes this doesn't occur and there will be continuous flow of blood through the ductus arteriosus, that is called patent ductus arteriosus. At that time, without the presence of stricture, that is postductal coarctation of aorta also, so blood flows both through the arch of aorta as well as through the ductus arteriosus into the left pulmonary trunk. So when this is present, usually it is associated with tetralogy of